Gillian, thanks. Gordon Brown has criticised a planned anti-war march in the Wiltshire town which honours British troops killed in Afghanistan, saying that anything that offends the soldiers' families would be inappropriate. The Islamic cleric Anjem Choudhury is calling on 500 members of Islam for UK to walk through Wootton Bassett carrying empty coffins, signifying the Muslim victims of the conflict. Mr. Choudhury has published an open letter to families of fallen soldiers in which he actually misspells Wootton Bassett. He says the following: Afghanistan is not a British town near Wootton Bassett, but rather Muslim land which no one has the right to occupy, with a Muslim population who do not deserve their innocent men, women and children to be killed for political mileage and for the greedy interests of the oppressive US and UK regimes. The procession in Wootton Bassett is therefore an attempt to engage the British public's minds on the real reasons why their soldiers are returning home in body bags and the real cost of the war. Well, a little earlier on Sky News, Mr. Choudhury defended the group's right to march where it wants.
If you believe in freedom and democracy and you're fighting for that, which is what supposedly the British government are saying to the public, then what's wrong with having a procession anywhere in this country? Surely that's a failure of those very ideals if you believe that we can't have that procession. However offensive you may think it is, I think that we have a right to air our grievances, and we're doing it within the ambit of the law. Nobody's breaking any laws.
Well, Dr. Fari Ahmad is from the Islamic Society of Britain. She's in our Wilmslow studio right now. Thanks indeed for joining us, Fari Ahmad.
Hi.
First of all, the cleric, Mr. Choudhury, says that they have a right to air their views. But do you think going to Wootton Bassett is the way to do it?
Absolutely not. I think it just shows how insensitive, how uncaring they are about it. Wootton Bassett is where the coffins of the people who've given their lives for this conflict. That's the way they paraded through the town, and for him to pick that to make his protest, it just shows how uncaring he is. He's making a mockery of these people who have given their lives for this. He seems to regard it as a great big coup. He's just showing absolutely no sensitivity at all to the people who've made this ultimate sacrifice.
So what's the best way, do you think, for us to react to this? Because on one level we could say, fine, it's absolutely outrageous, it's ridiculous, our soldiers are doing a fine job, and the natural outrage that we're hearing from Wootton Bassett would follow. Or we could say, well, we're trying to understand the point of view you're trying to raise, we're trying to understand the position you're taking, and yet there's really no feeling there's much of a dialogue there either.
No, I mean, I think, he lives in the UK, for God's sake, there's 500 different ways to make your protest to show that you're not happy with how things are happening. He doesn't really need to do this. I think it would be perfect, if he did go there and there was absolutely nobody on the street and everybody just ignored his protest. I think he's just trying to get some publicity for his tiny, extremist organisation and trying to say that he's making some point, whereas the vast majority of Muslims and people in the UK think what he's doing is outrageous.
Is there a feeling amongst the Islamic community that there is a position on the war in Afghanistan, that there is a feeling amongst British Muslims about the number of civilians that are killed in Afghanistan that is not being listened to by the general public? Is there a political point there that is difficult to make?
I think not just British Muslims. I think people everywhere feel that if innocents are killed in war, I think everybody is affected by that, and they would like to raise issues and discuss that. But I think there are lots of other channels and ways and means to attempt to do that. And I think taking this particular issue where, people who have lost loved ones who, and taking this issue there to that street is just showing how uncaring, he absolutely is he's talking about freedom to demonstrate and freedom to make his point. And the only way he can do that is because these people have gone out there and given their lives so he can come and do this, and he's showing no sensitivity to what they feel at all.
Referring to Mr. Choudhury's letter, the open letter, one point he says, we urge you to embrace Islam and save yourselves and your family from the hellfire, and not to believe the lies and distortions which the Western media and non-Islamic regimes would have you believe about Muslims and their true intentions. Language like that is very difficult for people to grasp at the best of times, isn't it?
I think language like that is impossible to grasp full stop. I think as a Muslim myself, the way he talks and behaves, I find it outrageous. I find it incredible that he uses this and he behaves in that way. I think if anything, he would make people run far away from Islam and Muslims. It's important to remember that he is he's a madman. He's an extreme. He's an Islamofascist with his own little tiny group of people who feel that this is a great way to make their point, which most Muslims, I think, and most people in the UK don't agree with.
Indeed. Dr. Fari Ahmad, thanks very much indeed for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us today on Sky News.
All right. Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
Let's get the business news now with Anna.